Right, I thought I'd just do a quick one about the actual notchings. What I'm doing with the bending with the crossbow bender, which is pretty good, but not the easiest to get exactly what you want and then to make a pair. You learn to sort of get a bit of a knack of it. But yeah, when it comes to the tube sizes and notching, now sadly I was trying to weld actually outside on a windy night, not overly happy with the weld, so I ground a lot of it back and I'm going to redo them. But the actual tube notchings are quite easy. Now the pipe sizes I'm using, it's 27, 34 and 42. Now to notch them, either spending a couple of grand on a tube notcher, linisher. I did start off using a pillar drill with a hole saw and a V'd out bit of timber at the bottom, so you could rest your tube in it, then drop the hole saw into it, which worked well for 90-degree joints. So you just change the hole saw depending on what your parent tube is. Now, then I actually found online, if I show you this way, brilliant app. If you search for it, like pipe or tube notching template, it's a website called Block Layer. They've got all sorts of templates and things for, you know, just about everything and anything. Now, as you can see, what I've done here is you have to enter your tube sizes. So the parent tube that I was joining into was 35mm. The tube I wanted to join onto it is 35mm. Now here's the key one, the wall thickness. Enter 0, because that gives you the outside dimensions of it. If you put 2mm, 3mm, whatever the tube is, what I actually do is make it as if the template was put on the inside of the tube. You don't want that generally. So with this, obviously that was a 90-degree angle, so that's comparatively easy. You do need to have a printer that will print out the scale exactly. And when it prints out, it'll give you a dimension, then check it corner to corner. If it's out, then the template's no good at all. So once you've done that, you cut it out. There it is. So then we do, you wrap it around the tube. If I had a third hand, I'd even do it. See if I can get, right, so there we go. So that, in effect, you would wrap around like so. Then just go around, draw it, and then that there, cut out the line. And then what you may have to do is just shape the inside of the actual cut edge, because what it's done is giving you the angle to cut at, but not necessarily through. I found the quickest way was to bulk it out using the beloved 4-inch grinder, and then using the hard sanding disc. Just cleans out. I haven't actually got one that I have notched out. I've got one that I've heathenized, which was here, so it gives you an idea of what's possible. That was actually one I tried to do on a hole saw, gave up on halfway. Went through hole saws at a rapid rate of knots. Now, where I said obviously this one's 90 degrees, which you can do in a pillar drill with a hole saw, but then you can get a little bit more complicated and fun. So for instance, parent tube 42mm, the tube I was joining onto it was 27. So you can get an idea of the actual angles and the shape. Now, all I try to do is when I'm wrapping it, I cut it off. When I wrap it around the tube, you just need to get this corner and this corner to meet, and obviously that corner and that corner to meet. Quite handy, they give you a centre line to work with. Now, it's quite easy to line things up working on the actual tube. Where it becomes a bit tricky is if you're trying to work on a tube that will butt in like that there, but you want another tube to butt in there. So you just need a flat surface so that you can actually mark the centre of it there, but then to be able to mark the centre of it there. Easily done, you just need to spend a little bit of time, levels, squares and the likes. Depending on the tube you're using, if you've got a seam, you can actually use the seam of the actual weld as a centre line. So yeah, but that's called a block layer. They also do, so whilst this one's for scalloping tubes one onto the other, if you actually just wanted to be able to cut a tube with an angle so it will join into, say, a piece of flat. So if I wanted to join that onto there, yeah, if I had a miter saw or a bandsaw, easy enough. But the alternative is using, again, the same site, but you just look in the parameters for a tube mitre template. Whilst this looks very similar, this is actually the cut needed for a mitre. And where I use this one, so I just pop it back outside, and that was for there. Not very good because the sun's on it. So yeah, so instead of me having to say do the mitre first and then try and get the bend exact, what I was doing was actually forming the bend and then working out my cut to the mitre point and then cutting it off. Obviously if you've got more accurate machinery, bending equipment like a mandrel bender, no reason why you can't do the mitre first, but I'm having to sort of do a little bit backwards. And again, once I've actually formed that, I then worked out that cut. Yeah, pretty good, all online. I think there are loads out there, but this is one I found is actually free. But yeah, the key to it is being able to print out exactly to scale. I did try it on my phone. For some reason, my Apple phone won't send it to the printer at the scale, so I was having to do it on the PC. One thing I did do is every time I made one, I actually printed out 2 copies. So I've actually got a stack of all the different templates I've been using so far, which generally are all, I shouldn't lose them. But just for future records, I've actually got fresh copies of all the angles that I've used. You can probably simplify it and not have to be too exact, but if it's 72 degrees or 74, I print it off. You know, it's generally worth doing. And when I work to an angle, or I work out the angle, I actually have one of these, quite handy, battery power. They do a lot longer version, but I find this is adequate for it. So it gives me the ability to work out exactly the angle I want and then print off exactly what I want, because that way then the only thing left is actually human error. So yeah, going back to here, yeah, a combination of 42mm, 34mm, and then a bit of 27mm in there just for bracing. Some probably say it's way over the top, but yeah, for sake of a bit of extra weight, I know it's stronger. As a side note, I actually originally intended for this flat bar at the front of the 10mm thick to mount directly to the body. A bit of a cock up on my part, because what it'll actually do is on the beam, you've got the adjusters. If you've got the other type of adjusting beam, that bar will bring that to about there, so you won't get to them. So once I'd actually started making it, I realised I'd had this 40mm box section on, which just basically packed it out. Yeah, bit of a learning curve. Yeah.